Good day, brothers and sisters, and let's get straight to it. Of course, after you push all those buttons, subscribe and like. Today's a great show. It's a bit interesting subjects we're going to talk. Of course, we're going to talk about war in Ukraine and depleted uranium and how it's going to affect the landscape of the war in general. But also now UK, beside all the long-range missiles that they sent earlier or vouched to send, now they're going to send F-16s, and basically the West wants to continue to fuel the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, and economies are collapsing all over the world. But we're going to bring the story back here in Canada, and specifically to Euthanasia story. Glenn, what do you think? You share the story with your grandmother about that she made that life choice to finish her life on her terms. And I know we already know your stand on this, but my question is, why are we even having this discussion? Because there are stories like military veterans calling social services or medical services which they can get, and one of the options they receive is the suicide option, which seems counterintuitive, with a medical provider offering you this as one of the options. What's your take on that?
Listen, one of the only things that you really do have in your life, it's not your house, you don't really own it, you can't take it with you. It's your choice, my body, my choice. If you don't like to live on the planet anymore, you've exhausted all possible options. Your future looks dismal, and you're so uncomfortable, and you're living in a perpetual state of emotional and social pain. Then that's hell on earth. That's when, euthanasia, you should be able to take yourself out in a humane way. Why is it that we're humane to animals? In my life, I've had to put down 1, 2, 3 of my dogs. They lived a long and great life, and then you see them in pain, and you see the expression in their eyes. You bring them to the veterinarian, and they do it the most humane way as possible. Why are we humane to our pets, yet we're inhumane to human beings?
Because the whole medical system here in Canada is not designed on being humane or heal. It's designed to process, like a processing plant. There's no soul involved into that service. And that's your answer. That's how I believe. It's the failure of the system in general. If the system I think the system is designed actually to fail, and that's why it's failing, because it's designed to do so. But it's not failing on its own. It's just like it's not building on its own. Somebody is investing into to build it, or somebody's invested to destroy it. And in the last recent months, years, etc., with the plane gimmick and now the West versus Russia kind of situation and the war in Ukraine, we see that people highly invested into destroying Western society. One of those people is Georgi Shorts, right?
George Soros. Yes, a Hungarian-born American businessman. And, Mr. Musk was going after him the other day. He comes out swinging with the truth. And there's a lot of people not too involved in the mainstream media who've heard a lot of very bad things at this Mr. George Soros. By the way, you said Georgi Schwartz, which is his real name. He's a Hungarian Jewish person. Now people saying that they're George Soros haters, they're being labeled anti-Semitic. No, it's not anti-Semitic. That's another campaign to try and tamp down on this guy. He's one of the bad globalists who are hell-bent on taking away your quality of life, by the way.
And this is what Musk said about him. He said that you assume that he has good intentions, George Soros, but they are not. He wants to erode the very fabric of civilization. Soros hates humanity. And if Musk said that, it must be true, because, he is the Lord and Savior. Of course, he's not. I'm on the fence, like with the whole thing, with his new CEO that he hired. On one hand, like he bought Twitter and he released Twitter files, and he's hiring Tucker to run the Tucker News there or whatever. But then he goes back and hires the new CEO, who is the World Economic Forum executive and NBC. Was she president or director of some sort?
No, she's working at NBC Universal. She wasn't the top dog, but she was there for over a decade. So she knows the business of the media. And also, Mr. George Soros is one who controls a lot of the media in the world.
Yeah, it sponsors a lot of it.
But champ, the media also is responsible for controlling people's perception of reality. You see, that's the indoctrination, part of the indoctrination system. It starts in the schools. The schools don't teach you what to think. That would be called don't teach you how to think. That would be education. They teach you what to think. That is indoctrination. And people like Mr. George Soros, they are champions of indoctrination.
Well, like you say, it's globalist, right? Well, what globalists are doing now, they're destroying Ukraine. They don't care about Russia. They destroy Ukraine so they can rebuild it later with BlackRock money, right? But what they're doing first, they really want to level it down. You want to destroy everything. And one of the things they're doing is because they don't want actually Russia to have, bids on that as well, or whoever else comes in from the East, is that they brought in their uranium depleted ammunition, right? Specifically for the tanks. It's good to pierce the armor. But as we know from the experience in Iraq, it's really, really bad, not only for Iraqis who received that, but also for the soldiers. But the Russians beat them to the punch, and they exploded the depot. And now the depot is burning, and no firefighters can come in and put it out because it's radioactive. So they're sending robots, and obviously there's radiation spread throughout the region with the smoke and all this other stuff. So and particles flying everywhere. And Ukrainians are running. Not that they don't really have that many places left to run, but they're still running. So it's that was UK, I believe, that sent those that ammunition in the first place. And now UK is vowing to send more stuff. Now they're sending F-16s, Glenn. What's the purpose of that?
Sending F-16s. And they're going to so-called train the new fighter pilots, the Ukrainian fighter pilots, for this so-called new technology, which is not very new. These poor souls will be like shooting ducks out of, like, with the Su-35, the new Russian fighter jets. They're supposed to be probably the most superior fighting jet in the world right now. They would be sitting ducks in the F-16s. That's yesteryear technology. Maybe England knows that. The UK just wants to get rid of the old technology,
Well, that's what they've been doing, right? That's what they've been sending to Ukraine. They don't really send the state-of-the-art. Plus, you don't really want to send state-of-the-art technology because Russians are going to get it. Ukrainians are most likely going to sell it to them, and in like HIMARS missiles. I think that's what happened. Like the moment they got to the Ukraine, a couple of them got sold to the Russian military. So now the Russian military knows the technology behind it. They know how to shoot it down. The same thing is going to happen with F-16s. But also, like you said, to train a pilot, it doesn't take 1 day or 1 week or 1 month. It's numerous months. So are they really expecting the conflict to go and to be that prolonged? Are they stretching this conflict as long as possible because that's how long it takes to destroy the global economy, to prepare the reset? It is a reset, isn't it, Glenn?
Yeah, well, let's say in the micro market of Ukraine, this ongoing war effort, which they could never win, by the way, and I think a lot of Ukrainians are waking up to the fact, it would be good for the military to turn their weapons on Zelensky. That way, they would save a lot of their the men and some of the women who are fighting on the lines, and Ukraine could get back to a fairly normal life again. It's going to take a lot of rebuilding. But you were talking about BlackRock. That's Larry Fink. This is the largest investment firm in the world, and they're going to be responsible for rebuilding the Ukrainian economy. You know, they're already in debt. The debt to GDP is already exponentially high. It's over 80%. They're saying by the end of the year it'll be 100%. I mean, you never climb out of those things. And also, they're defaulting on some of their debt, a lot of their debt. By the way, that's just in Ukraine. That's going to be happening in many countries in the world. I believe that there's going to be, you know, we heard about the banking crisis in America that seems to have the brakes on, but I believe it's going to restart with a big, huge banking crisis in the euro. And then it's going to act like a contagion effect. And this is going to be the real pandemic of sick banking industry spreading all around the world.
Well, U.S. debt default, that's pretty real, isn't it? Is that going to happen next?
That's Janet Yellen. She's a globalist puppet bought and paid for. You know, she's the head of the Treasury right now and under Biden. But before that, Trump had gotten rid of her because she was running the Federal Reserve. It's a private bank. It's owned by all the other banks. And they create the money supply and the interest rates. So when you have a private entity creating the money supply of a country and controlling the economy of a country through its interest rate policies, you could never really have free market capitalism. Now, I know capitalism has got a bad name lately because the average person doesn't really know what capitalism is. What they've been doing is crapitalism. So they're getting it mixed up, and a lot of the people seem to be switching more to a socialist style. Again, in the whole world, you know, the globalists said, okay, to mitigate damage in one country and let's spread it all around the world, what we'll do is we'll take the wealth from the rich countries and redistribute to the poor countries.
Harm reduction theory.
Yes, harm reduction theory. And what that does is creates just more of the world barely getting by, and it creates more wealth and authority power to the few running the whole world. Like that was the intent of globalism. But I think right now it seems to be showing us that we're in a major reverse globalism, more into regionalism. So the globalist construct is finished. You see it now with globalist networks like the World Economic Forum. They're just losing their power and influence in the world. Not very many people go compared to what used to. You know, it used to be the CEOs, the big shots in industries, big politicians. They would all go for these meetings. Some of what they would talk about would get out to the public, but the majority was on the QT. It's quiet, and they were just going to implement these agendas that they had unwillingly onto the people not knowing. And this is even in the so-called democratic countries, where, as we see, a lot of the institutions that were made to protect democracies in countries, they were, let's say, taken over by a globalist agenda. You know, the wealth at the top is so wealthy that they can buy their way into and out of just about everything.
And that was a good rant, Glenn. What about you know,
I cut it short actually.
What Yellen is arguing for is like they need to raise the ceiling of, you know, above $31.4 trillion for borrowing. Meaning, well, borrowing meaning let's print more money. Is that what it means?
Yeah, borrowing. In other words, the country is running on credit, and they need more credit all the time because it's not if it was a business, it would be bankrupt a long time ago.
But why they run out of money? They wouldn't make most sense to keep some of the money that they're sending to Ukraine home.
Too many unnecessary expenses, sending money all around the world, like you just said, giving money for, let's say, bad causes that are going to cause bad effects in the world. There's so much money that just goes, and the people have no idea where it is. Just the fact that $1 billion is 1,000 millions. And now they're talking about 31 and change, almost $32 trillion, which is a trillion is 1,000 billions. So, like, people have lost a grasp of just by the numbers alone. They can't fathom how much money and wealth that is. By the way, Big A, I think that whole monetary system is a debt-based monetary system, and it's on its last legs. This is why we see things in the world happening at the same time to be able to blame the economic reset that seems to be coming our way. And I'm not talking 10 years from now. I'm not talking 5 years from now. I would be surprised if it lasts 2 years from now.
So it's plausible and logical to assume that's an intentional demolition of the Western society. Building seven, allegorical building 7 of the Western society, democracy, economy, etc. And that's the democracy and economy that they want to, that's an example of it that they want to protect in Ukraine. That's just like what Justin says. We're going to stand with Ukraine because it's going to protect, we're protecting the Western values. And the Western values are that there is no democracy in Ukraine. There's no election. There's no opposing parties. There's no opposing media. And now the Supreme Court judge has been arrested on corruption charges. Yeah, the country isn't corrupt. Let's send them more money because it's not corrupt at all. But it fits into this whole agenda where, the official is the latest to be targeted in ongoing purge by Zelensky administration, which has continually arrested officials and banned political parties since the beginning of Russian invasion of the country. He may be legitimately corrupt, or maybe that's just a political movement, regardless of which, either way, it's a corruption, right? But we speaking, the legacy media will not talk about that. That's like, no, let's send them more money because, like what you, Glenn's saying, it's the last attempt before the reset. Let's try to launder it as much as we can and then invest it into something that maybe may survive the great reset, financial reset. Seems like that's what they are doing there. That seems to be the movement.
Yeah, let's face it, Big A, this Zelensky puppet, he's a globalist puppet. That whole regime that was put into place by the...
Is he going to survive? Okay, let's make a bet now. Is he going to survive the conflict? Or if he already or you think he already knows he's dead?
Yeah, well, that's one hell of an actor, because he knows his days are numbered, and they're not getting out of this one.
The Syrian leader survived 12 years of purge, and now they rejoined. He feels safer. He walk in the streets now. What's the Syrian's name?
Bashar al-Assad.
Yeah,
but he was on the side that's winning now. It looks like Mr. Zelensky is on the side that looks like they're starting to lose in the dominance of the world control.
And you know how Russia, for example, is winning because Russian oil exports are soaring, right? Almost 80% of crude has been rerouted from EU to India and China. And we know from the previous stories that China rebrands it and sends it right back to Europe. And some of the European countries are screaming loud, you should ban Indian fuel made from Russian oil. Why? Well, because this will speed up the destruction of Western economy. It will speed up the destruction of Europe because, energy source is probably the most important element in any economy, isn't it, Glenn?
Yeah, let's put things on the table. The Russian economy, all these sanctions, haven't done anything. Actually, Russia's economy is doing very, very well as an energy supplier to the world. And these sanctions against Russia have basically it's redrawn the world map of the energy producers, the winners and the losers of the world. So they adapted to these sanctions quite well. And even after the sanctions, if they ever do dissipate, I think Russia probably stay where they are now, or if they'll keep doing what they're doing now through China and India and other countries, and they'll start selling directly to the European Union again, because many countries in the Union, they call it a union, are starting to want Zelensky to find a way to end the war, like step down, or let's end this because too many people are dying and they could never win it anyways. Now, countries like Germany, Estonia, Latvia, Hungary, Serbia, they're all getting together to say enough of this. It's a useless thing, and it was created by the globalists who were funded by the West, and now it looks like even the West is doesn't have the wealth to be able to fund this anymore. It looks like they're going to start having to take care of themselves. Even here in Canada, you get Trudeau sending billions over there. Meanwhile, we see Canadians going through a hard time, sleeping in tents outside, and homeless shelters everywhere. And what's with that? That's a priority of importance that's really misguided, misconstructed. And Trudeau right now is in where is he? He's in South Korea.
That's his first official visit.
Yeah, and he's saying that he's warning South Koreans that we have to be on the guard because the authoritarianism, is everywhere, and these dictators we have to watch. What do you think Zelensky is, who he supports all the time? Actually, what do you think he is? When you had Canada was one of the nations that had the most strictest, let's say, lockdowns and mask requirements and all this government intervention when it came to the pandemic. And it's all dissipated now. It's gone. It's history.
Well, he also denied it's like, oh, we never forced anybody to do anything. That was your choice. Yeah, you're not going to get on trains, planes, and you're not going to cross even provincial borders. You can't even go for a walk with a dog unless it's a block away. And you better wear a mask and have a passport to enter to Costco, Yeah, and now it's like, oh, it's gone. And the flu is back. The flu was gone back then, but now it's gone, and now, I don't want to get canceled again, Glenn.
No, don't get canceled again, big guy. But you know what? Let's put out another truth that you can't get canceled is, let's face it, Zelensky was an actor. He was a ham. And that's a real good description of Trudeau. He was an actor. That was
no, he wasn't. He was worse.
A drama teacher.
Yeah, it's those who can't do, so actors can, and they do. Those who can't teach. He can't, and the reason why he was in the teaching profession, because he can't be close to children. You know how much he cares about children, and they got him. They compromised him. That was she 14 years old? The girl that got paid. Her family got paid $2 million for silence.
Right?
For silence, right? In the private school.
Yeah, in Vancouver, out west, when he was a
That's
teacher.
a true story, brothers and sisters. Look it up. But speaking of sick people, and also like Musk. In the last episode, we mentioned that Musk was upset about vote. Well, I don't know if it's genuine or not. He's like, I voted for Biden, but I wish he was a normal person, or whatever he said, whatever language he used. And executive capable making decisions, and basically not Alzheimer's walking dude. But he's not the only one. Feinstein, how old is Feinstein?
Dianne Feinstein, I think she's 89. 87 or 89
and
years old.
She still serves. She still serves. Look at this.
Yeah, she didn't look very well.
Look at this picture.
it's time for certain people to step down for the betterment of the country. For them to just say, no, I'm staying there, even though they don't even know what they're doing. There's other reasons for that. She's always been a strong Democrat in the used to be the amazing, beautiful state of California, which at one time was the seventh largest economy in the world. Bigger than most countries in the world, and how far they've fallen, and how many people are leaving that state to go to other states that are not so left-leaning, so woke, so socialized, so high-taxed, scaring away all industries and big business, and they're moving to other parts of the country that are hiring in droves. So the future looks better in those places than it does in California.
Well, Feinstein, she was asked by a reporter, about well wishes and how she feels for being gone for a few weeks, and she's like, no, I haven't been gone. She's so. We need to qualify those politicians. They definitely need to do like cognitive tests, especially at a certain age, and that's not discrimination. That's a requirement. You're making executive decisions on behalf of your representative, and especially now with like other agencies like China, CCP, trying to compromise you and not having this capability or mental aptitude. You're a liability. You're a liability. You know what else is a liability? AI. Even did you see that the guy went in front of the Congress?
That's OpenAI CEO Sam Altman. He went in front of Congress, warning Congress about, maybe it's time now to have certain restrictions and controls on this AI. And by the way, Elon Musk also tweeted out that Elon is the reason why we have OpenAI today. But he always said right from the get-go that it has to be controlled, okay? Because the AI could get into bad hands and do bad things against humanity. And, well, there are a lot of bad leaders out there who would love to use this AI against humanity for their own personal benefit or the benefit of the globalists who seem to be losing the power fight right now.
Yeah, Skynet just around the corner, brothers and sisters. Be aware. New one's coming out soon, like the GPT Chat 5 or 6 at this point. I don't even know what it is, but it's coming out shortly. And if you're not learning how to use it yet, although it's not the best tool yet, it's definitely some benefit to it. So look into it if you haven't used it. We're using it here right now. I'm teaching Rambo, and I'm teaching Glenn how to use it. Rambo has a little bit more success with it. Sorry, Glenn.
Well, no, I'm just resisting it, like I was resisting even to sell. I don't want to be followed everywhere, and I don't like that. I like to live free.
Did you see? Okay, so Miller Lite, latest beer brand, being soaked for going woke. Did you see that? I don't know. Have they done this intentionally? Again, it's a distraction of the Western society for things like economies and values and all that stuff. So there's a video I'm going to play for you, brothers and sisters. You tell me what you think. Because Glenn, in your association, what is beer as a drink? Is it a man's drink?
Well, usually it's more men are inclined to drink beer and more women are inclined to drink wine or a cocktail or something.
Well,
like that.
Regardless, you would say we're not going to discriminate against like Bavarian women or, there's definitely women that like beer more. But in general, you would associate beer market, right, with men.
Generally,
right?
Generally. I mean, well, at least this so-called woke commercial is not as bad as the Budweiser woke going broke commercial that
I don't know.
did.
Let the audience be the judge.
From Mesopotamia to the Middle Ages to colonial America, women were the ones doing the brewing. Centuries later, how did the industry pay homage to the founding mothers of beer? They put us in bikinis.
Farrah Fawcett? She was sweet.
But she
Look at this wild. It's time beer made it up to women. So today,
She
Miller
threw
Lite's
the statement like
cleaning up
women were
the
making the beer.
whole beer
I-
industry's shit.
Is
Miller
that
Lite
true?
has been scouring
Because
the
men were
internet
going
for all
around
this shit and
conquering
buying it back
everything,
so that we
taking
can
more
turn
land.
it into good shit for women brewers. Literally, good shit. How, you ask? Ladies, take it away.
First, we turn the bad shit into compost. Then we feed compost to worms. Push out beautiful fertilizer.
That good shit helps farmers grow quality hops.
which is then donated to women brewers to make their own really good
But there's definitely more shit out there. In your attic, in the garage, in your parents' basement. Send any shit you got into Miller Lite, and they'll turn that into good shit too.
Sensationalism, isn't it? Like why they had to use the curse word so often?
Yeah, well, that's the new way today. That everybody swears at every little thing. But you know, this I don't see the men getting all upset about this like they did on the Bud Light commercial. But you know, maybe it could be a way of introducing more women to the brand to try and increase their market share. You know, this is not such a bad one. Maybe I'm using this as a comparative metric against the Budweiser Light one, which was horrible.
All right, so this story is not woke enough for you, Glenn. Is that what you say?
I'm getting more flexible in my older days, big guy.
What about this one? Okay.
Well, that's where the flexibility ends there, you know.
I'll let you run with this one. So they're sorority sisters. They claim to live in a constant fear around transgender members. So they came and they even complained to this University of Wyoming housing department, and they expressed fear about transgender member in the group after after allegedly became physically aroused near them. So long story short, I'm not going to read the whole article, but he's like 6'2", 260-pound transgender. And, you know, obviously some women were not very comfortable around him. Her, she, her, them, they, I don't know.
Thingamajig.
Thingamajig. And the thingamajig had was wearing tights, you know, because women wear tights. Why wouldn't thingamajig wear tights? So the thingamajig was wearing tights. And one of the sorority sisters noticed that thingamajig had an erection. And I think it was associated with like, another female student, the proper female student, wearing a, what do they call it, a towel on the way to the shower. Because, you know, the dorms, they have common areas like showers and bathrooms. And
it's a dorm, but not a sorority. Okay, sorority is for girls only. But they changed the rules now to allow this person who thinks he's a girl.
I don't know the story about this, but
it made the other girls feel very uncomfortable, and rightfully so. I mean, 6'2", 260. That's Arnold at his prime as a young man in the off season. So, you know, that, I don't know, that doesn't look too feminine to me. And you have something like this and, you know, getting excited wearing tights and the girls are walking around. Obviously, they're going to feel a little bit uncomfortable. That's only normal. Now, if that was my daughter in that school, I'd say I'd go down there. What the hell's going on
your daughter
here?
wouldn't be in that school.
Good one, big guy. Good one. No, she'd be at a higher level of education.
Or it's self-taught. Like, you don't need that. Like, I you know, my friend asked me another day, and this is a good way to close the show, like, you know, is it worth to pay money for education? It's like, well, yeah, it is. Maybe even like, but even Musk said you can learn everything you need to know at home. Use YouTube or other resources. There's so many resources on the internet that you can learn, including things like MIT. MIT lectures are free on the internet, and some of the other Ivy Leagues are free, like scientific ones. And all of the stuff you can read and find the way to do it from YouTube. And if you want more specialty training, you can go to specialty training. You can pay specifically for those courses. Now, the paper that you receive at the university worth nothing anymore, Glenn. Worth nothing because those are the jobs they're going to be replaced. All those papers are going to be replaced by ChatGPT.
Yeah, and everybody has these papers, these degrees. So you have too many people with all these degrees going to be chasing jobs, which are going to become fewer and fewer because the AI is going to be replacing those jobs.
Yeah, and that's the exact point. So if you want to get higher education or better education for your children, you know, you have a opportunity to spend $50,000 to go to whatever school of higher learning, invest that 50 grand into gold, invest that 50 grand into real estate, invest that 50 grand into some sort of business. I don't know, buy Bitcoin. No, I'm not actually suggesting to buy Bitcoin. I don't know how to feel about
That's
that.
not too bad, big guy. A percentage of that 50 grand would be going to a
Yeah,
crypto.
and then put it aside somehow towards your children's trust. I don't know if there's any banks worth, if you can even trust any banks to do so anymore. I don't think you can. That's what I mean. So you're better off investing into something where it does not involve a bank or the institution, and present them with the opportunity to learn something on their own. And like this Chinese girl that we had. Well, she's Canadian. That was me being racist. The Canadian girl that we had, 8-year-old, she was really good at doing what she really wants to do, and her mom supporting her with that. So support your children with achieving what they want to do within merit, but teach them good fundamentals, right? Teach them tradition, teach them discipline, teach them how to take care of themselves, to be self-sufficient, self-sustainable. But it's guaranteed if you send your kid to a higher school education, what they're going to learn is what kind of pronouns they have. They're going to learn that a guy, 260-pound guy, 6'2" guy, if he calls himself a girl, he can live in the dorm and walk into the bathroom on your daughter. That's what you're going to learn. And then you're going to learn how to deal with it, which is a whole different bag of learning. So let's not get to that. Let's take care of the things at home first.
Well, Trump is one. The governor, not Trump, sorry, DeSantis, the governor of Florida, he's one who's doing his share of it, big guy. He's defunding the DEI programs at public universities, which are indoctrination camps. The DEI stands for diversion, equity, and inclusion. Okay, that is a social construct that should be up to the individual. That shouldn't be taught. That's an indoctrination system. You're being, shown what to think instead of how to think. And good on to Mr. DeSantis. I know there's a lot of people who dislike them. They think he's a dictator or this or that. Sometimes, you need a person of authority to stand up there and lay the law down for the betterment of the people. Originally, or the left-leaning originally will say, oh, he's like a dictator, he's authoritarian in his way. But then you see the results from the proper choices being made. And later on, the results are going to show very positive, and then people are going to start saying, no, you know what, we needed that. We didn't like it at the time, but we needed it.
Don't be indoctrinated. Be educated. Learn for yourself, brothers and sisters. There's some homework for you. Learn by going back throughout all episodes that we have here on the channel. And, we have a bunch of useful information there. So if anything, you can listen to us. No, I'm kidding. We're not the only source. There's so many sources that you can find on the internet. Internet is a wonderful thing if used properly. And we wish you a really good rest of the day, and we'll see you on the next one.